Hi, I'm Carrie, and I'm one of the dietitians with the Edge Lab. And today I'm going to present some tips from people who have lost weight and kept it off for over 10 years. One of the most important things in this maintenance phase is that we want you to continue to do some of the key concepts that we reviewed with you throughout the weight loss phase. And so these tips that we've compiled are actually taken from the National Weight Control Registry, which has over 10,000 Americans throughout the United States who have maintained a 30-pound weight loss for a year or longer. So these are some of their tips. The goal is to make the transition from dieting, which you did before your surgery, to maintenance seamless. Number one tip that these people have done is that they kept their eating habits consistent, meaning they didn't eat necessarily the same thing every day, but they ate approximate portion sizes the same, as well as times of day. So they just kept their consistent habits throughout this process. Second tip is that they stayed really active. They turned off their TV. They didn't sit in front of the computer, which we're asking you to do right now. They were constantly moving. And it could even just be walking around the house or doing things in their yard, but they constantly tried to keep active and moving. Third is keeping track of their progress and staying positive. So I know with this LST app that it can be cumbersome at times, just tracking your food, tracking your weight, tracking your steps. But there's research that supports that people who actually track and write down what they've eaten or how much exercise they've done, they actually are more successful in keeping the weight off. And these people also did that. So it's good to continue to do this. Fourth tip is they found support with friends or their gym buddies, or even just using a fitness tracking app. This supported their efforts. We know it's difficult, say, for example, that you always went on a Friday night to happy hour with someone. It's hard when that person wants you to continue an old habit. So we're encouraging you to find people, or maybe talk to that same person and say, hey, instead of this, let's go for a walk. So again, finding support from others who are wanting to get healthy and stay healthy. And then finally, these 10,000 people continued to make sure that they took care of themselves and tried to get plenty of rest, even if it was a nap, if they didn't sleep well at night. But making sure that you get plenty of rest will ensure that you won't either eat because you're tired, or just not being active because you're exhausted. So sleep is critical for all of us. So again, these are just some of the tips we want you to keep remembering from others as you make this transition from weight loss to weight maintenance for the rest of your life. Thanks a lot.
Hi everyone, my name is Hillary and I'm one of the coaches here for the Warrior Study. Today we're going to do one of our maintenance sessions titled Shaken, Not Stirred. So, shaken, not stirred. We're going to have a couple objectives today. But first let's talk about why drinks are important and why we're focusing on drinks today. Beverages contribute to calories. On average, the middle-aged male consumes almost 500 calories per day, and that's just from drinks. So this is just an extra source of calories, which we know if we're trying to lose weight or maintain weight, that can be detrimental to our plan. And 500 calories, that's more than this restaurant meal right here. Another reason is that beverages that often have a lot of sugar, and we're going to call these sugary beverages, and those things contribute to obesity, which we know obesity then contributes to poor health, and then poor health increases our risk of chronic diseases, which include cancer and cardiovascular disease. So here are our objectives for today's session. We're going to identify sugary beverages and define what an empty calorie is. We're going to work together to interpret a nutrition facts label, which you should have a nutrition label fluid plan and handout given to you by your coach. And then we're also going to do a choose your fluids activity. So number one, identifying sugary beverages and defining what an empty calorie is. I want you to try to think to yourself what a sugary beverage is. What's sweet to drink? So this includes fruit drinks like a Capri Sun or a High C, and it also includes fruit juice. So juice definitely has a lot of sugar. Then it also includes carbonated beverages like soda, and don't forget the sugar that you put in your coffee or your tea. Even sports drinks like Gatorade or Powerade, and flavored milk too. These drinks contain empty calories. Now, what's an empty calorie? Empty calories are calories that are going to be from solid fats and added sugars in foods. So they don't have a lot of those nutrients, the vitamins, and the minerals we want. They just have kind of pure energy, fat, sugar. So examples of other empty calorie foods could include pizza, desserts like just cake and ice cream, bacon, and of course, soda. Soda is definitely a large source of empty calories in a lot of people's diets. So now let's try to interpret a nutrition facts label, because we want you to try to do this on your own. So if you look at the number one here, start here. First thing you want to do is you want to look at that serving size. So in this example, the serving size is the entire bottle. But a lot of times when you get a bottle of something, there might be 2 servings per bottle. So you want to make sure you're looking at that and you're not drinking more than you really think. Then you're going to check the calories, and that's usually below that serving size. So in this case, the calories, there's 240 calories in this Coke. Now, if the serving size was more than that, we might have to do a little bit of math and see how much those calories are. Next thing we want to look at, and remember that calories are just energy, but the next thing we want to look at we're going to look at the total fat, the sodium, and especially with beverages, we kind of want to look at the sugar. So if you look there, I'll move my mouse for you. We've got a total carb and sugars. Sugars are just the added sugars, and they're included in this total carb. So we can see in this beverage, all of the carbohydrates in this are just pure sugar. And the next thing we kind of like to look at is going to be those ingredients. So what they do is they try to trick you, and they don't just put that it's sugar. They've got all these fancy names for sugar. But just remember that a lot of these things are still just sugar. Your body sees them as sugar. So that includes high fructose corn syrup, agave nectar, dextrose, evaporated cane sugar, brown sugar, molasses, fructose, anything ending in OSC. So you want to try to avoid things that have, this as their main ingredient. And you should have a list of these on your handout. And these are just some examples of things that are equivalent to sugar. So even if something tells you, oh, it's got natural sugar, it doesn't matter, because sugar is sugar. Your body uses it the same, sees it the same. 1 12-ounce soda a day for 1 year is close to 35 pounds of sugar. And that is equivalent to 15 pounds of body fat gained. So even if you're saying to yourself, well, I'll just take 1 soda a day, that's not a big deal. That could add up to 15 extra pounds of weight each year. And you can see how that can really make a difference and make you gain a lot of extra weight, leading to those obesity and those chronic diseases that we discussed earlier. So, and we do have a little quiz that is on your handout and right here. So if you look at this, if you drink this entire bottle, how many servings are you consuming? And now go ahead and look at that nutrition facts label, and you'll see what the serving size is. That serving size is 1 bottle. So how many calories are in the bottle? Again, look back at that nutrition facts label, and you'll see the calories are at 130. Then we want to think about how many grams of sugar are in the bottle. And as you can see, there's 34 grams of sugar. Now, down at the very bottom of this label, you'll see the ingredient list. Can you pick out some of the sugars in the ingredient list that might not be named sugar? If we are looking at our ingredient list, we'll see there is just pure sugar in there, but there's dextrose, and that's a kind of sugar. And I believe that's it for this example, but just know when you're shopping for soda or any other product that you can look at that label and you can kind of see. As you see, the first ingredient is going to be the main ingredient, the most ingredient, I guess. And then these are the top 3 ingredients. So this is just water and sugar here mainly. Now, if you're looking at a label and you see, high fructose corn syrup is the first ingredient, you know that in the weight of that product, it's mostly high fructose corn syrup. And that can make a difference. So here's our next objective, and that's what fluids should we be drinking? So this is a choose your fluids, and we've got a gold medal, a silver medal, and a bronze medal. And this podium kind of shows you what falls into what category. So our best category, our little gold here in the middle, is going to be water, infused water, green tea or other tea, which herbal teas are fine. I know sometimes you can't have caffeine, especially right after your prostatectomy. Coffee is another one. These are all fine. The green tea has something called catechins, which are polyphenols, and these act as antioxidants and may protect your DNA from damage. One study found that 3 or more cups of green tea per day may reduce risk. And then coffee also contains different polyphenols, and they found that drinking anywhere from 1 to 6 cups a day is associated with a decreased risk of certain types of diseases. And those are just associations, but it's something to keep in mind. Your daily fluid goal, and you have a little handout that you can kind of calculate this on. So you're going to take your body weight and divide it in half. This is the number of ounces of fluid you need as a minimum each day. Now, right now, especially if you just had your prostatectomy, that's going to be a hard goal to obtain, especially when incontinence is an issue. So don't feel bad if you aren't drinking this amount, but it's something that you can work your way up to, making small goals to get to that point. Just as an example, if someone weighs 200 pounds, they could shoot for about approximately 11 ounces, or 100 ounces, 100 ounces, and there are 8 ounces per cup. So if you're kind of following along and doing the math there, that's 100 divided by 8, and that's how many cups a day. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video here and get your fluid plan handout out and try to calculate some of these things on your own. You can use the calculator function on your phones if you need help, and just kind of see what might be a good goal for you. And again, if you're not drinking this amount, it's okay. But it's just something that you could work your way up to. Now let's go to, that's our gold category. Let's go ahead and go to our silver category, which is the next best choices that we have. And these are drinks that might be a little sweeter, but they're sweetened with stevia or truvia, which might be better than some other types of artificial sweeteners because these ones are from natural sources, plant sources. So, and we do tend to think that the natural sources are better. Then our bronze category, which are maybe some things that are appropriate sometimes as well. This is a good category, includes beverages that aren't necessarily the best for you, but they're still better than just a pure sugary beverage. So if you're drinking regular soda, a good goal would be to first cut back, and then second, switch to a diet soda. Now, there's a lot of conflicting data regarding artificial sweeteners, but the key thing here would be to limit your consumption of them because we are not entirely sure what their long-term effects are. But we do know that it is going to be a better choice for you than regular soda. So these include drinks that are sweetened with aspartame, which you might see it named NutraSweet, saccharin, which you might be more familiar with the name Sweet and Low, sucralose, which is Splenda, and then acesulfame potassium, or sometimes you'll see it as acesulfame K. So we do want to keep limiting these things, but switching to diet is generally a better choice than drinking regular soda, especially when we're talking about weight gain, obesity, and the risks associated with that. Bit of a warning here. So limit your sugary drinks to 1 or fewer per day, preferred. And sugary drinks, again, include the fruit juice, the fruit drinks, carbonated drinks, and the sugar you put in your coffee and tea, and sports drinks and flavored milk. So if you're someone who really likes sugar in your coffee and tea, something that you could try to do would be to wean down. So adding just a little bit less each time until you can handle a lot less, so you're not overdoing on the sugar. And then limiting your alcoholic drinks to 2 or fewer per day for men. And so just to make a note, 1 alcoholic drink is 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1 ounce of hard liquor, which is like a shot. If you are drinking alcohol, we prefer that you exclude all sugary beverages, just because alcohol does add excess calories as well, and your body just puts that on as weight. So something to keep note. So here's just a little example. A lot of people think that fruit juice is healthy for you because it comes from fruit. However, the reality is it's very energy dense and it often contains a lot of sugar. So even if the label says no sugar added, it doesn't mean there's not sugar in there. It just means they didn't add a bunch of extra. But here's a really cool example that I think kind of hits this point. There's 1 cup of Simply Orange juice. That's got 110 calories, 26 grams of carbs, 23 grams of sugar, and no fiber. And remember that the fiber really slows down that absorption, so you won't have a spike in your blood sugar. Then the orange has 70 calories, 18 grams of carbs, only 12 grams of sugar, and 3 grams of fiber. And the orange is going to make you feel more full because of that fiber, and you're going to get more bang for your buck with a whole fruit rather than fruit juice. And this is true generally for all fruits and their juice counterparts. So just something to keep in mind, that if you want that sweetness, it's always better to go with the whole fruit rather than to drink the juice, which is very energy dense and not nearly as nutrient dense as regular fruit. So here are our key messages from today. We're gonna wanna limit added sugars. Again, looking at that label, being mindful of what we're putting in, and trying to replace sugary beverages with maybe their diet beverage counterparts or just water, flavored water. And then to consume 1 or fewer, preferably fewer, sugary beverages per day, because again, that can lead to excess weight, obesity, and chronic disease. So now we're going to do a fun little sugar cube activity.
For our activity today, we're going to be guessing how many sugar cubes are in some of these items. First, we talked about natural sweeteners such as stevia, and we just wanted to show you an example. And it also comes in a little dropper. And kind of better choices, so an herbal tea that doesn't have caffeine in it, and this sparkling sweet water that doesn't have any sugar in it. It's just some examples of things that you can try that are appropriate. So first, let's start with this Minute Maid cranberry grape juice, and you might be thinking, oh, juice is good for me. So go ahead and pause the video and guess how many sugar cubes are in this. The whole bottle. This is 4 grams of sugar. So, ready? 1, 2, 3. So that's about how much sugar is in that one bottle. It's kind of a lot. There is 3, 6, 9, 12, a little over 15 cubes of sugar. So it's 71 grams of sugar. Now for this Gatorade, and I measured out what the bottle and the nutrition label says is a standard serving size, which is 12 fluid ounces. There's 2.5 servings per bottle. So pause the video if you want and go ahead and try to guess how many sugar cubes are in this glass. One serving. All right. So there's about 6 sugar cubes in one glass. There's going to be 15 sugar cubes in the whole bottle. Now for our next one, we have a green tea, and it's different than this herbal brewed tea that you would brew yourself because it comes in a bottle and it already has sugar in it. So make sure that even though you think to yourself, oh, it's tea, it's supposed to be an appropriate choice, that you're reading that label because you'll see that there is sugar in this, and you can try to guess how much sugar is going to be in that bottle. And there's 8 in this bottle. So now to the root beer. And this root beer, the serving size is 1 bottle, but on a lot of sodas, you will see that a serving size is actually just half the bottle. So always check that label again. And try to guess how much is in there. So there's more sugar than any of our beverages so far. That's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 17 sugar cubes. And that's 75 grams of sugar. Now, sugar can be in other things that you might not really think about. So here we've got a French vanilla coffee mate creamer. And that's a serving, if you can see that. It's just 2 tablespoons. So, and I know some of us just kind of pour it in, so it's kind of a good idea to measure how much sugar you would think would be in there. And there's about 1 and a partial cube, just a partial cube in there. But if you're someone who just pours it in, you might be getting a lot more sugar than you think. So now we've got this Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Barbecue sauce and other sauces and dressings can be hidden sources of sugar, so we always want to check our label. And this is a serving size. If you can see it, it's 2 tablespoons. It's not a lot. I mean, I really like my sauce, so being mindful of that. And you can try and guess how much you think is going to be in there. And in just this, there are 4 cubes of sugar. Can I see this? Okay. So if you are a very saucy person or you're going for barbecue, you can just think of how much sugar you're actually getting. And this, we don't necessarily have to measure this out, but I think it's important to know this is a serving size of the sauce, which is quite a bit. But this sauce has half the amount of added sugar as this one. So even when you're in the grocery store, you want to read that label. This one has 10 grams of extra sugar in it, and this one only has, I believe, 4. Let me double check. 4. So that's less than half. So just a point to always be checking those labels. You never know when you're going to get extra sources of sugar, and you can choose better choices. Voila.